Good evening and welcome to the Cabarrus County Board of Education's Tuesday, September the 7th, 2021 work session. I have already called the meeting to order, and the board has just reconvened from closed session, and I would ask all to stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And board members, I would ask that we add an item for the consent agenda 8.08, which will be the approval of the board interns. May I have a motion to amend the agenda to add that?
Motion to amend the agenda.
Motion by Ms. Blackwell.
Second.
Second by Mr. Furr. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And we will begin with our items under 6.01. I'd first like to say, on behalf of the board, we would like to say thank you to the teachers and to the staff for the successful opening of school this year. I know it's been extremely challenging for all, and we really appreciate all that has been done to get kids back in class. And also, I would like to just make the comments that we have gotten quite a few emails and messages regarding quarantines and issues that are taking place, and the board understands that. We have had some discussions with Dr. Kapicki, and we've asked for some additional information that will come to the board at our business meeting next Monday. And with that being said, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Kapicki for 6.02 and superintendent comments.
Thank you. So just very briefly, I would like to echo the comments that Ms. Grimsley has already stated, and that is to first and foremost thank our teachers for the wonderful way in which they are handling a very difficult situation. I've been around a lot of the buildings and spoken to a lot of administrators and teachers, and working with our cabinet, I can tell you that our teachers are exceptional in what they're doing on a daily basis to keep our kids in school. And that is the focus, to keep our kids back in school. So I thank the board for their support. I thank the board for their due diligence and hard work that they are doing on a daily basis to support what we're doing. And that is, again, to keep our schools open and keep kids in school. I think together, if we continue to work together and collaborate, we're going to be successful in doing that. It won't be easy. It's going to be stressful. It's going to be difficult. But again, I think that if we just focus on the important stuff and focus on keeping our kids in school, we'll accomplish that goal. And along with thanking our teachers, I want to say thank you to the parents for their patience. We understand some of the different dynamics that are in play as we open school. There's always various issues that we have to deal with, and I appreciate the parents reaching out to us and giving us a heads up on some of the problems. Please continue to communicate those to us, and as you do, we will address them. To the community at large, your support is essential. I know that you're involved in our school on a daily basis and a lot of the programs, a lot of the partnerships. Continue to support those initiatives and those partnerships. They're important and a key cog in making sure that our school district is successful. And then lastly, the most important folks in the room every day, which is our students. I want to make sure that I say to them, kudos to them and commend them on their just that absolutely outstanding excellence that they bring to the buildings every day, their cooperation, their inspirational spirit, their willingness to adapt and be resilient. It's encouraging when you walk through the buildings and you see kids on a daily basis being engaged in the learning and the various activities that are taking place. As I tell people, I'm forever optimistic because when I see the teachers teaching and the kids engaged, it gives me hope. I know we're doing all the right stuff, and when you see the excellence that is in our teaching staff, and then you see the kids and the way they engage with our teachers and the adults in the room, and it just makes you feel really good about the Cabarrus County schools and the community that we live in. So to everyone as a whole, I thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I just would remind people to please be patient and continue to support us. Together, if we work together, we'll get through this. I truly believe that, and I see it on a daily basis in my conversations with our board and support that they lend to us on a consistent basis, and will continue to do so. So I thank you, and I hope for the best for everyone, and keep up the good work, because we have nowhere to go but up, and we're going to continue to focus on what's best for our kids in the school district. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kopicki. And again, we just want to say thank you also to the parents and all that are involved. It is a tremendously challenging year. You know, we all looked forward to last year thinking at this time would be better answers and better processes in place, and that just hasn't quite taken place. But all of us have to just be very diligent in working with each other and doing what we need to do to keep these kids in school. So with that, I will start with the reports under 7.01, and I am going to begin with Ms. Adcock, who's going to talk to us about the board interns and what we actually amended the agenda item for. Ms. Adcock?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It's great to be with everyone tonight, and I am excited to talk about the students that are going to be part of our 2021-2022 Board of Education Student Intern Program. We've decided to add 4 students this year in 2 separate semesters. On the first semester, from September to December, Priya Punakar from Cox Mill High School, who is a junior, will be joining us, as well as Yash Kayakur from Cox Mill. Also, he is a senior. On our second semester, which is January through May, we have selected Jonathan Luck, who is a senior with the Cabarrus College of Technology, and Camilla Rogers, who is also at Cox Mill High School, and she is a junior. So congratulations to those 4 students that will be joining our BOE intern program. We are going to have a meet and greet for the first semester students at 4:30 at our BOE business meeting next Monday night. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adcock. And we will approve that at item 8.08. Board members, are there any other committee reports or anything anyone has? Ms. Carpenter?
Yes, I would just like to say, give a shout out or a thank you to the Afton Rotary for helping out with the school tools. We got, I think, about everything delivered this past week, and it was very successful. And just want to thank everybody that participated and helped out. That was just, it was just so helpful. You know, so much goes out, and the teachers help all year long buying supplies and everything, so anything we can get is very helpful. And I know I delivered about 6 schools myself, and everybody was so appreciative of it. And this year we did a little something special. We did a nurse's bag, and I've seen firsthand this year how hard our nurses, everybody's working hard, but our nurses are really going out this year working extremely hard. So we did a little nurse's bag that put some little extra things in, and they were very appreciative of that. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that participated and everybody that contributed things. And probably next month we'll have a total to say how many items we got and everything. I know they were working, trying to get the numbers and everything, but thank you for letting me give a shout out. And again, thank you everybody for helping out.
Thank you for that report, and I know that's very exciting. Everyone looks forward to that, and that is great that the nurses were included this year. They've had a tremendous challenge dealing with all that they have with the COVID situation. And I'm happy to say Dr. Kopicki and I spoke that with the Health Alliance, I think it was our July meeting that they came, and we were discussing extra resources for the nurses to help with that process. And I think that some of those people actually get started either today or tomorrow, correct?
That's correct. I met with Mr. Basilis this morning, and we talked about some of the onboarding processes that we have with the Cabarrus Health Alliance, and we do have, I believe there were 5 that started within the last week, and we are anticipating more to come on board as well. And we will continue that process until we have people in every building helping our nurses and assisting them in their daily work.
That is great. Okay, hearing anything else, Mr. Walter?
I'd also like to echo Mrs. Carpenter's comments. I also had the opportunity to deliver some supplies to the schools, and it was very appreciated. the collections and how they organized all that for the students in schools. We had a virtual SHAC, which is a Student Health Advisory Committee meeting, and this is really just a heads up that the annual survey for high school and middle school students will be coming up. And essentially it's just each school, one classroom per grade level will be offered the opportunity to take the survey. It's always an opt out, and I guess there'll be some information sessions about the survey, and again, look for the website for more information.
Okay, great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so next we will have 7.02, which will be our board attorney, and I will turn it over to Mr. White.
Very quickly and very briefly, our North Carolina legislature in their long session typically ends June the 30th. They have not. They're still going powering through the year. They have passed recently some legislative action that impacts the school system, which we are complying with and will continue to comply with as it goes. Once any additional legislative matters that come before the board or come before that impact the school system, we'll be updating to make certain we're current. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will move to 7.03, and we will have our COVID-19 data and information update by Dr. Kapicki.
Yes, Mr. Basleys? It would be remiss of me too. I want to take a moment, not to get off topic, but to make sure that I also thank our nurses. I'm clearly aware of the great work that you're doing out there on a daily basis, and we appreciate your work. Without you, I really don't know how we would function on a day-to-day basis. You've done an incredible job getting us started this year, and thank you very much for that. Mr. Basleys?
Great. Again, to reiterate, I'm with you on that all the way. Our nurses are doing they have a very, very heavy lift, and they're doing outstanding work at this point in time. I don't know where we would be without each and every one of them, and so I can't thank them enough for the great work that they're doing. So I'm going to pause for a moment, and will the slide be projected, or is that something that we just use in closed session? I'm sorry for the procedural question. Yes. Okay.
Dr. Kapicki, you can send it to me, and I'll send it to Larry to project.
Okay. If you'd rather I just talk through, I just need a moment to grab my laptop to do that. I hate to ask the time for that. So we're reviewing all of the data that comes into us for all of the close contacts and all of the students who have been quarantined on a weekly basis. We keep this up on a daily and a weekly basis, and our current count of positive cases is I have it as over 200. I'm sorry, I'm not able to pull up my data sheet right now. What I'd ask is there an opportunity for us to come back when I'm able to actually pull that data up and come back to that? Can we do
Absolutely.
that?
Yes, no problem at all.
All right, thank you.
No problem. We will just, John, are you okay to go ahead and start with the opening of schools, and maybe we can come back to John Basleys? Is that good? Okay, we will hold that and move to 7.04, the opening of school presentation, and we will have Mr. John LeGrand to the podium.
Thank you, members of the board, Dr. Kapicki, and Dr. Kapicki is going to get us started with the first couple slides, and we'll rotate through just giving a report of our back to school and our first week of school and where we stand at this point.
Are you able to forward?
So again, as Mr. LeGrand pointed out, this is our opening schools presentation to the board and the community. And as you can see clearly, the numbers are there in front of you, that we have 4,312 current employees serving 33,333 students. I'm going to run out tomorrow and play the lottery. But again, that's a pretty big statement right on itself when you look at that slide. That shows you the amount of students that we are all serving on a daily basis. And you know, being mindful that we are a growing school district, and kudos to everybody that's serving all of our students. And Mr. LeGrand will take it over from there.
All right, our next slides are of the COVID-19 updates, and John Basselis is going to present these slides.
Okay.
I think y'all can just tag these two line items completely, right?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so let's see. So this year, in terms of student health and safety, we will resume in-person mental health support from provider agencies. As you all know, that's a really important function of what we do. We want to ensure that we provide the social emotional support that our students need, particularly at this really difficult and anxiety-provoking time for our young people. Last year, of course, we had to pivot to being all virtual, and this year we consider our mental health practitioners who support our students to be essential visitors. So we've created an opportunity for them to come back into our schools to meet with students individually and personally, one-on-one, rather than virtual. While virtual is certainly a good option for students, we sincerely believe that the greatest power is going to come from a face-to-face meeting with students. Let's see, the next item is around expanded support for COVID response. As Dr. Kapicki mentioned a moment ago, that the Health Alliance is in the process of onboarding additional support for our school nurses. As I said earlier, school nurses are completely, they're doing a great job, but they have such a heavy lift. And so the Health Alliance is using some grants funds to support some additional support to ensure that the nurses get help at the schools. The onboarding process is underway, and I feel confident that by early October, we'll have everybody well represented at all of our schools. We will be resuming COVID testing at select CCS sites. You all know we were part of the pilot project for this year, for the previous year, but we've expanded that in the year ahead. That's a challenging thing this time of year, but as the year goes on, we'll continue to offer on-site testing at select sites. It's our plan to grow that to every site in the district. However, what we can say right now is we're at about 50%. We expect by October to be at 50% of sites being able to offer testing. And then we will resume social emotional support training. This is a fundamental thing that we do for our capacity building for our students. We offer professional development for our select and indicated staff and providing support to students who have strong unwanted emotional responses. So you've heard me in the past, many of you have heard me in the past talk about the Reconnect program, which is based on this idea that, that young people have an automatic survival response that kicks in, particularly when they're feeling anxious. Our staff is trained in how to address that and how to give young people some skills to be able to essentially arrest that part of their brain that might move towards panic and make sure that their prefrontal cortex is online and they're prepared to learn. Okay. Our next slide deals with student safety and well-being. I'd like to ask Amy Lauder to come talk about this slide.
Hi, good evening. So we will be convening with student safety drills as we typically have kindergarten through 12th grade. We also will be doing middle and high school randomized school safety checks. These are the metal detector checks and the book bag checks that go on. We will continue with our Say Something Anonymous tip line reporting system. A few years ago we implemented that, and we will continue training both returning and new students this fall. And then we also have our specialized instructional support personnel, our counselors, social workers, psychologists, nurses, and we also partner with our local law enforcement agencies. They will continue to provide physical and psychological safety for our students. Thank you.
All right, so in auxiliary services, we talk a lot about setting the stage, and we feel like it's our job to set the stage for our educators and our students to perform, and we want them to have the best possible conditions to do so. And even during this very challenging year and getting ready for challenging circumstances, our auxiliary services department has done an outstanding job, and I just want to acknowledge and publicly thank our directors for their hard work over the last month and a half, and even before that, getting ready for this critical week of school, the first week. So just to go over a couple of highlights in our Kids Plus program, they're off to a great start. Transitioned to a new child care management tool from one that was sort of outdated, and we're very happy about that and getting a lot of positive feedback from parents and staff. Continuing that partnership with the Cabarrus Cooperative Extension 4-H office to provide our students with activities, our staff with professional development, and the quest now is continuing to recruit quality staff in order to serve more families. As you'll see on this next slide, we are proudly serving over 1,000 kids, 1,022 to be exact, and of those, 22% are Cabarrus County School employees' children. We would like to serve more because we have 665 currently on the wait list. But right now, again, as I mentioned, staffing is an issue. We're continuing to recruit, and anybody that we can get to, of course, while being selective, because we want to make sure we've got the best quality staff in front of our students right there in Kids Plus. But you can see that enrollment is down from previous years if you look at the enrollment comparison, again, due to our staffing shortage at this point. As far as FMD and our custodial services is housed in that department, they have done a tremendous job of getting ready for this school year. You can see some of the large numbers of PPE items that they have delivered to various sites around our school district, while also doing the normal back to school preparations, such as applying 11,800 gallons of floor wax in CCS buildings around our county. And of course, throughout the day, continuing to sanitize and clean high-touch surfaces to make sure that our schools are safe as they possibly can be. One thing that we're really also proud of in FMD is the brand new Cabarrus Virtual Academy. And this is something that our facilities team was able to put together not only in a short period of time, but they did an outstanding job. You can see some before and after pictures there. It was amazing to see the transformation, and it was even more amazing to see when I went over the other day to see students in that building utilizing that space, and just a unique opportunity for a lot of our kids. So we were happy to have that ready and up and running on the first day. As far as school nutrition, as you probably heard, providing meals, the USDA waiver allows us to provide meals at no charge to all students this year. And that's definitely a reason to celebrate, free of charge. And serving breakfast and lunch at all schools in a variety of service models. You can see the amount of meals that have been served since July of 2021 when Wolf Meadow went back to school. So we're over the 100,000 mark for lunches served. Open satellite meal location at the Virtual Academy. They are serving meals in that brand new building as well at a very low cost due to using kitchen equipment from other places in our district that we were able to pull from and make lunch available there in the Virtual Academy. Also, just a couple of more celebrations from school nutrition. We joined the Serve Safe dining commitment to demonstrate a promise to safe and healthy meal experience for all of our students. We also had a couple of S&P staff teams from our individual schools get some recognition, well-deserved recognition. The Carl A. Furr SMP staff was honored as hometown heroes at the Kannapolis Cannonballers game in August, so that was real cool to see. And Concord High School actually recognized their SMP staff as the Spiders of the Month back in April, so well-deserved, like I said, recognition there. Our challenges there, again, staffing. Right now at this point we have 43 vacancies, which makes up 15% of the workforce in the S&P department. And of course the supply chain disruptions due to the pandemic. But nevertheless, our S&P is continuing to provide high-quality service and food to our students each day. Technology that has worked with schools to continue our one-to-one device assignment that we started last year. This is our second full year, and have refined and gained more efficiency in that process. And in addition to that, they're repairing and redeploying damaged and non-functioning Chromebooks from the year before and putting those back into circulation. We've upgraded all sites to 10 gigabytes of connectivity, which is a big improvement from the 1 and 2 gigabytes that we had in our school sites, and set up and configured the virtual academy and all new mobile units in preparation for the first day of school. Each one of our classrooms had internet and had connectivity on the first day of school. Technology, just to show you their proactive approach, the graph that you're seeing here, in the blue you're seeing open tickets, and in the orange you're seeing the resolved tickets. And this is for the first week of school over the last 3 years. And as you can see there, 95% back in 2019 of these open tickets were resolved during that first week. Took a little dip last year due to the first year of the device assignment, and this year we're even above the 100%. More of these issues are being resolved. They're being resolved before they're even opening up the tickets, and that's due to our break tech fixes, or our break fix technicians, I should say, and the new, the additional ones that we were able to acquire and put out into our schools over the past several months. And lastly, transportation. They are coordinating a whole lot over in that department, as you can see, making about 7,500 stops a day, traveling 31,000 miles each school day, and pretty much transporting a small city of students at 25,000 students each day. Staffing has been an issue with that as well. We'll continue to recruit and get as many bus drivers as we can. We appreciate patience from our families and our schools as we continue to work that out, and we'll progressively see improvement in those areas as we move forward. So that's it from auxiliary services. I'm now going to turn it over to Dr. Hill for curriculum and instruction.
Good evening. I'm thankful for the opportunity just to share the good work that's happened over the summer and to open up the school year. I want to start with our summer Jumpstart camp. That was a huge initiative. We had over 2,300 students participate in our summer Jumpstart, over 500 staff members and 11 sites. So this was a huge undertaking. It was required by Session Law 2021-7. There are several required pieces, but Cabarrus added some additional pieces to make sure that we had a comprehensive summer program. We operated K-12, as you know. We offered math, science, and reading. We also offered English 2, Math 1 and 3, biology, physical education, and at the high school we were able to add some CTE courses, Foundations of Health Sciences, Adobe Visual Design, Drafting 1, and Core Construction. So we're able to offer a very comprehensive program for our students. This was a huge lift, and I do just want to give a quick shout out to everyone that made the program successful. Of course, our auxiliary services, which are the backbone of the organization, our facilities and maintenance department, our custodians, school nutrition, transportation. Our site directors did an outstanding job. They are our future school administrators. Some of them have moved on this year to actually be school administrators. We had teachers, clerical support, interpreters, behavior management technicians, instructional assistants, counselors, social workers, SROs, nurses, and then of course the heavy lift from our departments here at the Education Center, finance and payroll, HR, and then curriculum and instruction. These are some of the statistics that I wanted to provide to you, some glows. We had 53 third grade students who met the North Carolina Read to Achieve requirements. So these are students that would have been retained based on North Carolina state law, but they were promoted. We had 491 middle school students who were promoted after their participation in the program. 226 high school students completed the program, and 94% of our students and high school earned credit, which is really exciting for an end of course course that they were taking, or a CTE course. So this is excellent news, of course, for our high school students, because this means that we're getting them back on track for graduation, so hopefully they'll graduate on time. We also offered some non-academic support, school nutrition, daily physical education, social emotional learning, and lots of summer fun. So it was not just your ordinary summer school that we may be thinking about, but it was really a really good time for them. Moving on, would like to talk about curriculum writing. These are all the courses that our curriculum writing team rewrote this summer and late spring. Some of these courses were rewritten because we have new curriculum and new state standards. All of this information, we worked really closely, with the team of curriculum writers. We have some master teachers. We have facilitators that are school administrators who also work closely with leaders in our curriculum and instruction team. Here's an example down at the bottom of some of the really intentional lessons that we're providing for our teachers. So we're excited that we're able to provide this curriculum to our teachers on the first day of school. The next thing that I'd like to share with the board and also the general public is all of our curriculum that's tied to state standards is available on our website. If you visit the Cabarrus County Schools website and click on the Department Curriculum and Instruction, there is a link for K-12 curriculum. And this is just a screenshot here for you, so you see that there's a place for teachers to click and also for parents to visit, and parents can connect with what their children are learning there on the website. This year again, you all heard a lot about Canvas last year. This year again, our teachers are utilizing Canvas as their learning management system. All of our teacher Canvas pages include a week at a glance, which includes the learning objectives, the assignments with due dates, any assessment dates for the week, and also reading materials. We are encouraging all parents to please make sure that they sign up for a Canvas Parent Observer account. And so this will allow parents to observe their child's Canvas page. And I've linked the video here so parents can watch a really quick 2-minute video to see how they can do that. Would like to share the grading practices that we're using this year. We believe the purpose of grading is to communicate mastery of grade level standards, also to provide feedback to students that they can use for self-evaluation and reflection, to evaluate the effectiveness of our instructional programs, and to also clarify learning goals, indicate strengths and weaknesses, and for students to receive remediation and enrichment. This is a link that is on our district website. The information about grading is found on all of our school websites, but it's also found here in our Cabarrus County Schools One Strong Start Guide for Families. The next thing we would like to make sure all of our parents are aware of, and the board as well, that PowerSchool is the authoritative source for grades in grades 6 through 12. All parents should have a parent portal account for PowerSchool. There is an app for that. You can take a look at your child's grades. Anytime that your child has a grade that's missing or PowerSchool is updated, you can get an alert on your phone. So folks can visit our accountability website where there are lots of videos, step-by-step guides, so parents can know all the time when students have assignments that are due, when assignments are turned in, and the grade that they receive for the assignment. And finally, I'd like to leave you with our focus on college and career. We're really excited about the work that our departments are doing. We have some cross-department work that spans from elementary, middle, and high school, CTE, and student services. As you know, the vision of Cabarrus County Schools is to inspire minds, engage hearts, and shape futures. So we are always asking ourselves that when students graduate from Cabarrus County Schools, have we done everything that we can to make sure that they're ready for college and career? So we're really excited about a tool that we're using this year called Naviance. Naviance is a support tool that will support us as we assess our students' interest, and then also make sure that we're developing competencies and skills to ensure that our students are successful when they leave us after they leave high school. We're really excited about the work that we are continuing to do in Cabarrus County School and continuing the legacy of success in Cabarrus County Schools. Thank you for your time.
And now moving forward to human resources, Dr. Kopicki will take this slide.
Sure, and there's just the one slide to give the board and the community an update on some of these staffing numbers that we've dealt with as we began the school year. You can see the beginning teachers there, the certified staff, those we've hired, and some of the teacher vacancies we had in the first day of school. I will tell you that the teacher vacancies was much higher than the 9 that you see. The HR department has done a great job in getting that as low as they could possibly get it to make sure that all of our spots are filled in the district. So there's some information there for you to examine. And then I would like to say to Dr. Hill, to Mr. LeGrand, to Amy Lauder, and to the entire team here in the Cabarrus County Schools, great job on preparing this report and get this information together. There's a lot of great information there that they've shared with all of our community, and I commend them on their due diligence and the great work that they continue to do. So thank you.
Well, that is a lot of good information on our beginning of opening schools, and I'll just give the board members an opportunity to ask questions or make comments, and I'll begin with Ms. Carpenter.
I agree 100%. That was great information. So that last slide, you said the 9 that we have less than that than we had to hire with teachers. Is that correct?
I believe that number was well over the 9 that you see there. I want to say it was over 40 in the beginning, and the staff and the HR department has worked to get that down to the 9 currently.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Furr.
Just like to say thank you. You guys continue to do an outstanding job, and we really appreciate it.
Mr. Walter.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said here. It's also, these are the questions that we're getting, so you guys were great to provide some of these links on how parents can access some of this material. Is it possible we can get it on the website instead of just board docs? Can we put this presentation out there?
Yes, that would not be hard to do. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Ms. Blackwell.
I just have a couple of questions that I wrote down. So with the COVID testing that they're now offering at the schools, I know that not all the schools that are doing this, I know this is kind of a pilot program. I guess if somebody is going to be sent home for potential quarantine, are they using this opportunity to test the children then, or is it just based on symptomatic children that are being dropped off at school?
Thank you, Ms. Blackwell. Yes, the students who are symptomatic can be tested there on site. Again, it's by our school nurses, so they're carrying a heavy load, so they're having to balance that with several other things they're doing. In addition, if there's a student who is coming back from an exposure as a close contact, in the past you've heard Mr. Schultz talk about the fact that if somebody is a close contact after day 5, on day 5, 6, or 7, the student could test negative if they're asymptomatic and, return early. That was fun. Then the on-site testing can be used for that as well, to facilitate a quicker return to learning.
Have we noticed that it's been, I guess, so I've had parents ask me, because I know that they've had a hard time in some cases finding testing within a good period of time to get their kids tested. So, has this been something that's been successful up to this point, or is this really, I know that the nurses are having a terrible burden with so many things that we're requesting them to do, because there's only just them, and so they've got other nurse duties to do too.
Sure.
Besides just COVID test.
Yes, it's incredibly challenging, I think, for them right now, and as they're sort of navigating their way through that challenge, I would say it's successful. I would say that there are some limits, though. I mean, as you've noted, within the first 30 days, the nurses have their regular difficulty as well as sort of the onboarding of new students as well as the checking of immunizations, of the required immunizations at a variety of the different requirements. So, and the other thing to remember is the Health Alliance does scale up. Like, for example, today in the Mount Pleasant schools, I know that the Health Alliance added some additional personnel to be able to create more capacity for that, for the testing to occur. So I would say that it's successful. I can't give you a sense of the numbers on it because I think it's all happening so quick that it's hard to get the data exactly right on that.
I would at some point like to see some data just on how many people are actually utilizing this and what the process is as far as, I assume that parental consent obviously has to be, you know, something that's done if we're going to test the kids in school. So
Yes.
I would just like to see how many parents and kids are actually utilizing this, and if this is, you know, something, you know, going forward that's going to hopefully help with not having the kids that may be considered close contact having to go home and quarantine. If we can test them there, if parents agree to it, and then just make sure that they're negative so that they can stay in school.
Right. And negative and asymptomatic, that's a big requirement.
Right.
They have to also be. So just a clarifying question, you're asking how many parents and kids are utilizing the testing services so far this school year? Was there another variable I might have missed?
Nope, just want to see how successful it is and what, you know, how we've been able to really keep kids in school, which is obviously our most important goal, so.
Yes, of course, I'll ask for that information.
Okay,
For sure.
thank you.
So again, I'm sorry, Mr. Basleys, as we continue to onboard the support workers from the Cabarrus Health Alliance, this should be a lot easier to do and take some of the workload away from our nurses, and they can actually do the actual functions we need them to do on a day-to-day basis. So as we onboard these individuals, this is something that we can kind of have them focus on as well. Would that be accurate?
That's very accurate. So as we start onboarding these additional personnel, that will free up our administrators and our nurses to get back to the business of providing, you know, care for students and educational leadership within the building. It's, you know, the truth is with COVID, we're a person down, right? Literally, if we could assign a person per school to sort of do the running of COVID, to make sure that the kids who are in an isolation room are monitored, to make sure there's a designated person to call parents, to express just what you're talking about, to talk through the testing process. I think if we could get those people on board, I think you'd see a lot of relief for our nurses and for our principals, and then, you know, of course, by extension to our teachers as well.
And we did onboard 5 just this week to today?
So we onboarded 5 last week. I believe as of today they have 10.
Okay.
And so that number will continue to grow. It's my sincere hope by October 1st, we're at full capacity. But again, people are working as fast as they can to fill those vacancies.
Thank you.
Sure.
So before we move on to Ms. Sandage, you know, I think it's good for the viewing audience, especially the parents, to understand that we hear you when we get the questions regarding quarantine, confusion. You know, when we say we're a person down, because that nurse now has become a COVID nurse and it's concentrated in that area, and we've got kids in there with tummy aches and diabetic, insulin-dependent kids, seizure activity, medications to be distributed. So there's a lot of stuff going on, especially in that beginning of that morning. It is so vital to have extra resources in those schools, and that's why we've asked for them, you know, numerous times. To Ms. Blackwell's point, that information that we asked for earlier, to break it down and to dive a little deeper into those details of quarantines, is because of the confusion factor that's come through about parents signing forms and had given an option. And I think when we're going in between staff, that's really confusing to go between if that parent's going to sign that document and be able to opt out for 14 days versus the 10, 7, or 5 when they come back to test, and then when they come back to school. So that's a lot of stuff going on that a parent's, you know, faced with at that moment. Right. And then if they don't get that exact person that called them to begin with, when they call back, they may get another scenario of what they're supposed to be doing. So I think that's a lot of the stuff. You know, it's the beginning of the year.
Sure.
I know that we're all going to have to give grace, you know, to get these processes in place, but we definitely need to be working those out so that parents are, you know, are truly on board with what needs to happen with their child.
Yes, and I agree. The idea that somebody can be there to sort of talk through and sort of break down like, okay, so your child was a close contact on Friday. If you get can have a negative test on, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, then conceivably your student would be back a week earlier than we initially expected.
Great, that is great. Ms. Sandage?
Thank you. So, John, can you help me understand where we're identifying the positive cases? Is that coming from folks coming to school or calling the school and saying, like, where are a lot of these cases coming from, and from what you've seen?
You're saying, so the question is sort of, are we finding this in school, or are we finding this in the community?
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Like, how are we identifying the cases that we have?
Sure. So there's a variety of means that comes to us. One way is just through basic contact tracing. So that's one way. So for example, if we learn about a case from a staff member or a student, that might come to us through the community or through a parent. If a student was tested and then reported back to the school nurse, then we're able to have the staff do a contact tracing to figure out which students would need to be quarantined. So that's one method. Where, obviously the testing itself, like if there's testing that goes on in the school, then obviously that nurse is able to have immediate contact with the family to be able to say, yes, in fact, your student is positive, and then thereby be able to do the relevant contact tracing and therefore do the quarantines as well. So I think so it's really a mixed bag, but I think a lot of it's coming from the community reporting, and then for our staff to be doing contact tracing. So when you do that contact tracing, one of the things that principals recommend strongly is that a student get a test to determine if they're positive or not, right? So that's one of the things that they're trying to do as well, to make sure that as we have positive cases that we identify them.
And that goes to Laura's question about finding out if they're able to get that test at the school or offer that test at the school. Because that's, again, my question,
sure.
or the back of my question. So when we identify that there is a positive case, whether that be a teacher, staff, or a student, what happens at that point? And
Sure.
you may not know the answer to that, but
Yeah,
it would be good information to know.
If I can answer it the best I can.
Okay.
So as we find out that a student is positive, the student is advised and the parent is informed that the student cannot attend school, right? So if you're positive, the expectation is, the requirement is that you just cannot attend school. From that point, our staff begins the contact tracing. And so what they do at that is they look at the time when symptoms began, and they go back 48 hours from that point. And then they determine, were there students with whom they were within, unmasked within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more during any 24-hour period. If the answer to that is yes for any student, they are considered a close contact, and that results in a quarantine for, the default time period is for 14 days.
Okay.
Does that answer the question? I'm hoping I answered it.
It does. I guess I'm just trying to figure out why all of the quarantines, and you may not know the answer.
Well, so great, and I apologize earlier. I did not have my data up to be able to tell you, but when I went back and pulled the data, after conferring with the principals today, our weekly total is 267 cases that are positives that were identified this last week. Our total number of quarantines as of Friday was 1,079 cases quarantined. So if you do the math on that, that's about a 4-to-1 ratio if you think about it. Like for every positive case, it's about 4 students. So all of the quarantines, I think there's a lot of reasons that could happen. Certainly there are close contacts that happen in the community. There are limited opportunities. We all wear masks, right? So wearing a mask during the school day, for the most part, will not result in a close contact. There are times, though, of vulnerability for that, like including during the lunch period. So where a student might be sitting next to somebody and have their mask off for the time that they're eating. So that might be a time where a quarantine occurs.
I just wanted to say thank you, everybody who presented today. I've gotten to experience the Summer Jumpstart So I do appreciate, Crystal, that did help, my daughter, so I can imagine what it did for the rest of our children. Amy, I wanted to tell you thank you for taking my call this week. I've been able to see our district work, our staff work, just by, trying to help our community. Amy, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you, if somebody wants to make a referral for social work, can you just tell us just a little bit about how that works? I don't want to put you on the spot, but I never knew that was possible. If we've identified a kid in our community that may be struggling to link to services, what we're able to do for that kid if they attend our school.
Okay, sure. So I want to sort of answer this a little carefully in that we have an outstanding supervisor of the school social work program, Amy Joel. She runs a great program, and she coordinates our mental health care for students in terms of making sure any agency that comes on campus is somebody that we have a MOU with that keeps our students safe and sort of prioritizes student learning. So I think what ends up happening is we don't want our schools to necessarily be the office space of an agency, but rather if the school recognizes that a student is experiencing a problem that's interfering with their learning, then the idea is that our school staff, our social workers, counselors, and psychologists will work with the parents to identify agencies that might be able to come on board and create as little disruption as possible to student learning and be able to welcome those folks on campus. So I would say that probably the short answer is to work closely with your school social worker, school counselor, and school psychologist to determine if it's a suitable location for the delivery of such services.
My last question is about transportation. So this may or may not be John. We've gotten a few emails about the accessibility, before and after school. And I just didn't know if that had been discussed or you had heard that. I know for me, the first day was like murderous getting my daughter to school. It took me 45 minutes, almost an hour to get to the front door. So I think that's what some parents are talking about. And then I've heard some things about Mary Frances Wall and the getting in and out of there. And I just didn't know if that had been discussed or brought to your attention.
Yes, we've heard reports of that at various sites. One of the main causes of that is we're seeing that we're having way more car riders this year as opposed to bus riders, which is leading to longer lines in our car rider drop off before and after school. We have went out. I was actually out at a school today assisting a principal with looking for more efficient ways, looking for ideas on how we can make that time period after school a little better for the car riders and maybe pick up the pace. We also, out at Mary Frances Wall specifically, have had personnel going out to look at that as well as today, this morning and in the afternoon to see what, if anything, can be done to make that area safer and more efficient during arrival and dismissal. And it's just a matter of working out the processes and making sure that we're doing it in the safest way possible. But yes, that's something that is definitely an area of emphasis for us, and we expect to see it continue to improve as the school year progresses and we find better ways of speeding those processes up.
Ms. Adcock?
Thank you, Holly. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone as well, and thank them for everything that they've been doing to get our kids back to school. I think that during this time, it has been hard for a lot of different people in our community to think about the number of students that come to our schools and how we have to handle the COVID situation. I am very proud of the numbers that Dr. Kopicki has spoken about, that we have lower numbers than other school systems. That shows us that we're really doing what needs to be done to keep our students safe. And I just thank everyone that has gotten our kids back in our classrooms and continue to improve on all the things that we do for our kids. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Blackwell?
Thanks. So I had actually had another question I wanted to ask about Kids Plus. So just kind of change it up a little bit. I've had some questions from some, I guess regarding the Kids Plus, the way that the payments are now, like the first 2 months are due first, as opposed to what they were before. They're asking for upfront payments now from the staff, I guess, from what I'm understanding, the teachers. We have a good number of teachers that utilize Kids Plus. I guess it's been quite a struggle just because they haven't been working all summer. And so then to try to come up with like a double payment, August and September, is that something new that we've done this year? And I guess why the change, and when were they notified of that information?
We did transition to a new payment management system, a new software for Kids Plus due to the software that was outdated previously. I have not been made aware specifically of that being the case, but I do know that our Kids Plus staff and Amber Diggins, our director, has been working directly with families to sort those issues out related to the new payment management system. So I would encourage anyone that is having difficulty with that or has questions about that to contact her directly. She's been wonderful in assisting our parents with that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Vassilis, are we going to do any of the slides that were at 7.03 regarding the COVID-19 update, or have you?
What I'd ask is, for tonight, can we just go with the report of the numbers rather than breaking it down to the granular level? Dr. Kopicki, if you'd like to sort of pull up what the idea of what the grade by grade looks like, we can certainly go over that.
Sure.
But I think what I'd like people to understand is that we are examining the positives and quarantines on a school by school and grade by grade level. There's a lot of challenges in that. When you start talking about quarantines at the level of close to 1,100, while that sounds like a very large number, when you start dividing by 40 some odd school, then that becomes a little less alarming, particularly then as you go across multiple grades within a school. We do have some areas that are concerning, where you might see a cluster or two, but the way that we're looking through that data does give us the opportunity to sort of look at a closer level at the school and grade level to see where we have positives and where we have quarantines.
So I'll just ask, those slides are very informative. I thought that was really, really good information. So could you have that prepared for next Monday night and just update it, of course, with the newest numbers from this coming week?
Sure.
And just let's do it. I think the general, or the viewing audience would, and that's a piece that I think once you put it on that slide, just talking about it, but actually seeing that makes it look different.
Sure.
And I think the viewing audience and the parents and all those that are involved in it could really get a visual on what that really looks like.
Yes. May I ask a clarifying question?
Sure. As
you say that, would you like it to speak conceptually to say what we're looking at, or would you like the live data?
Yeah. The board's pleasure, Dr. Kopicki. Kip, will you Kip?
That'd be fine. I believe that we're pulling it up right now.
Okay.
Oh, great. That's even better.
Okay. All right. So if you go to the tab that says weekly quarantine at the bottom, the purple tab that says weekly quarantine, that might be a helpful thing for us to look at, where we're able to track.
And then just slide it over to the left so we can see all the grade
Yes.
levels in the schools. So
Right.
the bottom bar, just slide it to the left.
Yes, and what I would ask you all to do is to understand this.
The other
as-
left.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. I would ask you to understand this as a moment in time. So this is a version from the 3rd, where it says at the top where it says 2021-09-03. That gives us an update of what things looked like on Friday. So you'll see that number of quarantine on Friday was 1128, and it gives you a cross section of the by grades. the long and the short of it on this one is that this is exactly what the data will look like, although this is not our current data down to the moment, right? This is the data that we uploaded on Friday. And so what
current, John, let me to clear up, but current in the sense of within 24 hours. So we're always running about a day behind on the quarantines and on the positives.
Yes, that's right. And
So what you see here is current within the last 24 hours, the day before.
Well, we're only publishing once a week, is that right?
So we will publish this once a week, but Dr. Kopicki is examining this on a daily basis at the beginning and the end of the day. And what this is a parallel version that's saved, so I have to make a backup version to make sure that we don't lose the data. So suppose something happened to one of these files, I'd hate for us to lose all of that information that we have and sort of start all over again. So this is actually the backup version I'm noticing here. But we do update this on a daily basis, so we're able to keep up with by school, by grade, how many students are quarantined at each level, which can help us look at hotspots within the schools.
So John, if I may,
Yes.
if you could just slide up, you can see the by grade level there, the amount of quarantines by grade level in that box there where it goes 1 through 12. To your left, then, if you look across it horizontally, you'll see the grade levels again. You'll see the school by grade level. So the aggregate totals may be alarming, but when you disaggregate the data and you look at it across the school levels, so for instance, you have the elementary schools, you can see the breakdown by grade level. And some of those are situations where we can explain it because we understand the clusters, and some of it is just the numbers are what they are. If you scroll down a little farther, you'll see the middle school numbers. Again, by grade level, you'll see the 7, 8, 9 across all of our middle schools. And if you scroll down a little farther, you'll see the high schools. And you'll see our academies and the opportunity school and our early college numbers. So these are the quarantine numbers as they are at the moment. And then John, walk me through to the daily positives, or the daily detail positives, the totals.
I can do that. So, and again, this is a backup version. So I think that there's a different version that gives you what it is as of today. But what this is saying is that down to your positives, those positives that were reported on a daily basis, that where we're just looking at positive cases, we're not looking at quarantines or closed down classrooms due to clusters, but just the number of students who are positive in any given grade level. So it will give us that information as well. This is one that I know Dr. Kopicki will be looking at on a daily basis, and I'll be making sure that we update on a daily basis. At this stage, this is a good low-resolution view that gives us a sort of mile-high view of what's going on, and then it gives us the ability to sort of drill in from there. I think that as we have more practice with this, as we continue to do this, it'll get more and more precise.
And again, if you scroll down by school, you'll get the idea of where the cases are. So it gives us good information as to where those positives are. If you continue to scroll, you see the high schools and the early colleges and the Mary Frances Wallace Center, etc. If you scroll across the weekly quarantine, I believe it's the next one, it gives us the current cumulative total of positives. So I think it's the next one.
Yeah.
So you want to scroll, there you go. The arrow right below that, and then right below that, hit that arrow right below. Right below that. So in the bottom left, you have two arrows. So we'll see where the weekly quarantine is, Larry. We want the next box next to that. Here you go.
Okay. So, right. And as we look at that, we'll be able to give you an idea of how many we've gotten.
Next one?
Yeah.
There you go. Now if you could, now if you bring that bar across. So this is the total positives since the beginning of school, if I'm correct on that, right, Mr. Bessels?
So this is the total positives for the week through Thursday, because this is a backed up version of this. This is why we see a higher number today for the week, but it is broken down in terms of grade and then by day. So you'll see here that erroneously, you can see the Friday, we did not have 1,079 cases in there. That's, for some reason, that's reading our quarantine number. I've got to go in and make sure that reads the right data. But it will calculate the number of new positives each day.
So it gives us a little more detail as to where the positive cases are. Any questions?
Board members, any questions? I'll start with Ms. Sandage.
Yeah, let me think about this, because I'm just a little more confused now.
Okay.
Ms. Blackwell.
Okay, so I actually have a question regarding the PCR versus the rapid testing when they're able to come back to school.
Okay.
Are all schools accepting rapid tests, or does it have to be PCR?
No, we accept the rapid antigen test or the PCR test. The only test that is not acceptable or not
Is the at-home?
is the at-home test.
Well, you can't find one anyway.
Well, there you go.
They're
Right,
sold
so-
off the
right,
shelves.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Walter.
So what are we providing the public, and where can they find this information?
So in terms of the granularity of the data, I would much rather, and I leave it to your discretion as the decision makers here, I would much rather continue with the form of reporting that we've been currently doing, where we list the number of students per school and the total number of quarantines, as opposed to getting really granular with the public in terms of the individual cases. The reason I say that is I want to make sure that we're respectful of somebody who might be positive, because it'd be very easy to make an assumption about a student. I would not want to inadvertently disclose a student's medical status. Am I answering the question that you've asked?
That makes sense to me.
Okay. Yeah.
So the public obviously is asking us questions about.
Yeah. So if we could stay the course on how we're reporting to the public, that'd be great. But for the purposes of you all making the important decisions, having the granular data that you might really want to sink your teeth into, I think that makes sense.
But to be clear, we update it once a week. You usually do it on a Monday, is that?
Yes, usually this time of day, usually the end of the day on every Monday.
Okay.
End of the day, the first day of the week.
And then I guess my question really is related to the quarantine stuff. Is it, we're following the Health Alliance, or what are we following with the quarantine rules?
So we're following the quarantine rules as through the Health Alliance and through the Strong Schools toolkit, which is all CDC guidance, if you think about it.
Yeah, to Ms. Sanders' point that we're all wearing the mask. We're not, with the presentation that we got indicated that we shouldn't have a whole lot of quarantines, and we've got quite a few. So.
Well, so
you've discussed some of that. I don't
no,
want to
but
get
at the
into
risk of being confrontational, and I hope it won't be seen this way, Mr. Walter, is that relatively speaking, yes, 1,000 quarantines is a large number, and we want that number to be 0. However, as we look around some of our neighboring districts, their numbers are in the multiple thousands. And so please don't think I'm saying that it's a good thing that we have 1,000 plus quarantines. It's not a good thing. However, when you compare it to other districts where maybe some of the same precautions were a little bit slower to be put into place, that I think that it looks favorably on the number of quarantines that we have. Again, some of that's happening in the community, and some of that is happening at vulnerable times like lunch.
I think you mentioned the lunchtime they're not wearing a mask, so that would be an opportunity to have multiple people as close contacts.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Furr.
No, I appreciate the way it's broke down. I think this is going to be valuable information going forward. But what I'd like to see, maybe a little different, is put the percentages.
Okay.
Because if you look at a little over 1,000 in quarantine with 33,000 students, that's not very, like you said, one's too many. But when you look at it like that's not real alarming. Same way with the number of positives. You look at those with 33,000 students. I think we really look pretty good. And not only that, I think with the quarantine process or system, I think if we would do something about that a little differently, those numbers would really look good.
Yeah.
Because I think we're quarantining people excessively.
I see.
That's just my opinion.
No, I understand.
But I like this. This is going to be valuable information, the way it's broke down by grade and by school. It's something that we can have good conversations with. So I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Ms. Carpenter.
And also, One information one group of information we were not listing, and maybe it doesn't need to be on this one, but I would like to have it somewhere, is our clusters. And, you know, I know we've had, well, we counted a little while ago, I think we've had 6. I would like to have that somewhere. And how many is in the cluster? I know it has to be at least 5. And 2, how that's done, because sometimes I'm not sure it's done correctly, because I was talking with somebody and they said, I'm not sure it was actually done correctly. That child shouldn't have been included in that cluster. It really wasn't done correctly. So just making sure that it is accurate when they do it. Because I know it does have to be filed with the state. I know there's a report of it, all this type thing. So I do want to make sure that we are accurate in our reporting, because I know everything is filed everywhere, and that, you know, we do have it somewhere, if it's on this report. And again, I like this. It's good data, and I'm with, you know, I think we need to be precise in I think your suggestion on what you did with this, it needs to be, we need to have it documented so everybody's singing out of the same book. I think that's very, very important, because if people, the parents, everybody's getting different information, that's not good for anybody. We need to make sure that we all doing the same thing and they're getting the same information. So I think that's very important.
Great. And Ms. Adcock?
Yes, I'll just say too that thank you for the details that are provided in all of these numbers. I think it's really important for us to make decisions based off of data, and as we move forward, this really gives us a great groundwork and a system that we can see where the changes are being made, and then having it broken out by grade level, it just gives us a lot more information to be able to see how our outcomes are doing with our policies, our procedures, and how things are going with the whole school system. So thank you so much for the hard work that's gone into this.
Okay, so Mr. Basilis, the takeaway is going to be the questions that we'll want answered for next Monday night, which are the quarantines, regarding if you can drill down and give us the number of actual positives or symptomatics that come out of those quarantines. I know that the new format looks really good. Board members, I know that we all said, okay, Ms. Andich.
Yeah, I think, the reason why I'm confused is because, you know, this goes back to my point about people dying from COVID. You know, people may say that children is a small percentage of that, but we have a percentage, and if we're able to learn from, are we quarantining right? Like, what is our procedures? And that's what I was trying to figure out earlier. Like, how are we identifying who needs to quarantine? Because if we can keep 1,000 people in 1,000 staff in the school building, because we don't have substitutes or enough substitutes, if we can keep kids from having to take, you know, packets home or, you know, virtual learning some way, some form, then how do we do that? Like, are we learning from this process, and are we doing quarantines based off of how we should be doing quarantines? And that may be a discussion for the board, because again, if we don't need to quarantine people, then we don't want to do that.
If I can interrupt, that's really what we've all asked for, okay? That's what we've asked for, so that's already going to come to us Monday night. So I don't want to get confused that we're asking different questions, because that really is the basis of what we're going to be asking. We have asked for in the previous conversation that we had earlier, okay? So that will be coming to us. Are we quarantining?
What will that look like, though, is what I'm trying to figure out. Like,
exactly.
We'll know from A to Z how we are quarantining folks. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes. So, Dr. Kopicki, the only other thing that I felt like we have not covered is, I know we talked about the task force, the metrics team that reconvened. Maybe you want to cover that. If you don't want to cover it tonight, maybe we can do that at the business meeting. But I think it's real important that we, you know, at some point in time, we probably need to get that information back to the board as well.
So the task force has met, to my knowledge, 3 times, October 20th, October 27th, and there was a date after that as well, but I believe that was the metrics team. We are going to convene the actual task force again in the very near future, and I'll report back to the board on their recommendations. We also will have a metric that we'll present to the board next week also that recommendation comes from the metrics task force.
That is great. Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
could I ask one more question,
Absolutely.
Madam Chair? Thank you. So one of the other things too that I think that we've realized just over the last 2 weeks, week and a half that we've been in school, is that lunch seems to be like the biggest proponent of quarantines. Is there a way where maybe we could think outside the box and maybe have lunch outside or, you know, something like that so that these kids don't have to be put into a situation, they got to eat, right? And they can't do it with these on.
Right.
So is there something that we could look into to maybe where they eat lunch outside or, you know, eat in the classroom? Or I'd prefer them to go outside, honestly, because they need to be able to get some air. But I don't know. These are just, this has seemed to be kind of the biggest exposure is at a potential lunch break that I've seen.
Yeah, I believe you're correct about that, and our principals are incredibly creative and adaptive people. So let me give you an example of one principal I spoke to this weekend on this subject. You know, Mr. Davis, who's a great principal over there at Patriots Elementary School. That's one of the things he said is it's going to be a beautiful week ahead. There's not supposed to be rain. It's supposed to be in the 70s and 80s, and we'll, as much as possible, we'll space out and do 6 feet outside for kids to be eating lunch outside. And so that creates its own set of challenges, of course, in terms of monitoring and things of that nature. But that's an innovation that Mr. Davis, you know, came to me with, you know, without being prompted. He was thinking about the safety and well-being of his kids and taking advantage of, you know, good situational awareness about what the weather is going to be like, and he just, you know, seized the moment on that. So I think you're right. I think our principals are very creative and will find ways to minimize the time where people will be maskless even as they're eating lunch.
Dr. Pickey?
Yeah, I just want to say, John, thank you to you and your team. You've done a great job. I know the data collection has been a yeoman's task, but I appreciate it. I think we're getting better at it every day. And to the board, I encourage you to continue the good, solid conversation, because that communication going back and forth and your questions that you're asking of us is giving us some perspective on some things we need to kind of take a second look at. So I think it's healthy conversation. I would just encourage you to keep having that healthy dialogue, and we'll continue to get this better and better and better so our kids can remain in school.
May I have one moment before you pivot away from me?
Yes, absolutely.
This is a lot of work. I have to be very honest with you. It is a lot of work, and I'm not complaining. I'm expressing that in gratitude to people like Tagny Diaz at the Health Alliance, Beatrice Hernandez at the Health Alliance, Maria Scorza in the Student Services Office, who's already doing a lot with enrollment, and Renee Mull, who seems to do everything around here. They've all pitched in to help make sure the data is as good as it can be, and my commitment is to make sure it's better. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Kopicki, we will keep it with you at 7.05 for the quarterly forecast.
So as you have in the past, we're going to keep with the system that you have in play and continue to examine our processes. But for the board's information, these are some of the initiatives and some of the items that the cabinet and the administration will be working on over the next couple of months that you will see come in front of you at future board meetings. Obviously, the budget is a key thing that we're always working on. It seems like daily. Some of our awards, our Principal of the Year, our Assistant Principal of the Year, the audits that are currently taking place and ongoing, our construction updates, the John LeGrand did a great job this evening of presenting some of that information to you. Our policy updates as we move forward, the calendars, and various different things that you see there. I would ask the board if there's something that is pressing or something that they feel should be in this presentation to let us know. This is coming from our cabinet, our administrative team, and if the board has anything they would like to see, please inform me, and we will consider that as well. But these are things you will see in October, November, December, and future board meetings. So thank you.
Thank you. And next, we will move to 7.06 for our budget update, and we will have Ms. Kelly Klutz to the podium.
All
right, thank you. I was hoping to have a longer presentation for you today, but I don't. I have a short presentation for you because we are at that point in the state budget where we can't get a state budget. So I'm going to share with you the information that we have local, because local is required to adopt their budget by June 30th, and they have done so. So I'll share a little bit of that information with you, and then I don't have anything else on the state side. So this is just kind of a quick reference guide that we use that's worked really well for us in the past. We're focusing mostly on capital here. You can see at the top, and you should be familiar with the budget request that we submitted to the county. The items at the top are capital outlay. We call them non-facilities, so non-facilities and grounds related type things. You see we asked for $1,034,000, and we did receive $1,020,000. So basically, with a little bit of help from the district, we'll be able to take care of all of those items on the first list, which is a great place to be. The second list is our capital outlay items. And this is a list that is usually extremely long. In our budget committee, we ranked the first top 36, knowing that in this category we had not received many dollars for this category in the past years. This year is a different story, and we're very fortunate and pleased that the county has been able to support the district in this manner. You can see lots of roof projects, mobile renovations, bathrooms, access controls, fobs, security systems. Continuing on, security vestibules, Ms. Carpenter, we finally got them. Enclosing area for dining capacity, that certainly is going to help those schools that are over capacity. And on and on, so 36 of those for a total of $5.1 million. That's a significant contribution to our capital outlay and deferred maintenance needs. Okay, this is the document where we address operational expansion. You will see our request there, and there's no dollars allocated this year. There has been some dollars set aside to increase the teacher supplement in future years, but we are to use our ESSER funds or fund balance in the years prior to those funds expiring. That's why there's no amount there. The technology operations, you'll see that there is $1 million, so the request was $572,500, and we received $1 million, so that sounds backwards, but it's actually correct. This was the agreement that we had with the county last year when COVID first started, and we went ahead and purchased in advance $1 million worth of devices so that we could get them in the hands, and then the county agreed to fund us in this budget cycle for those devices that we have already purchased. So that's why that looks a little bit funny. There's still $572,500 that we're going to ask for this coming year to satisfy that requirement. And then below our FMD operations, you see the request, and there were no dollars allocated there. Okay, so that was the local. Are there any questions or comments on that?
Board members, comments or questions?
Okay. And then I just put a note in here that I pulled out of one of my email notifications that basically says we don't have a budget. We maybe have something closer to mid-September, and then maybe it may be drawn out even longer. So my expectation is if we're getting this level of communication now, we won't, even if it goes to conference, finalizes in conference by the end of the month, you're not going to get anything through the governor to the middle of the next month. And then by the time DPI processes the information that we need to get a budget to you guys, you're looking at probably November before you're going to be adopting a budget.
So, Kelly, I hate to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you can do this. Can you give the viewing audience a synopsis of what this really means? That I'm not sure they understand that we don't have a budget. We have a budget, but not at the state level.
Sure, we have a continuing budget resolution which allows us to operate in the same manner that we've operated in the past, right, at the same dollar capacity. So we can pay our salaries and we can do the things that pay our utilities, do the things that we normally do. But we're not going to have salary increases or benefit increases or anything new. So if we were advancing, adding plans or programs of some sort, those decisions could not be made. You're on hold for those decisions. So we're just kind of in a hold pattern. We've actually been in a hold pattern for 2 years. We haven't had a budget, and there's no guarantee that we will get a budget this year either. So you might be in a hold pattern for longer. My best guess right now is you're looking at probably December before it comes to you. Hopefully sooner than that. But we're operating and everything is okay, but everybody's waiting. You can't do your job. There's a lot of things with the budget and the allotments and the way the state works. You can't do that until we get a budget. So it just holds up everything, and it's a struggle. So and teachers don't understand why they haven't got their step increase, and it's because we haven't adopted a state budget. So they're being paid on their last year rate, even though they have a higher year of experience, and that's confusing for folks. But the simple reason is we don't have a state budget.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Board members, any comments or questions? Ms. Adcock, anything?
No, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you. And we will keep you for, yep. We will start with the consent agenda, 8.01. Anything on budget amendments for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021?
So this is just a budget amendment because the charter schools bill us super. Sorry, thank you. This budget amendment is necessary because the charter schools are super delayed in their billing. Those charter schools, we've gotten bills up until the latter part of August, so that this is just an amendment to put the dollars in the right place to ensure that they get proper payment.
Board members, comments or questions? Ms. Carpenter?
Now, is this an increase from what we originally budgeted? And if it was, how much was that in addition? Is this in addition to what we originally proposed?
It is in addition to what we proposed, we didn't ask for the county for the additional dollars because our overall ADM was lower, right? So it was really just a shifting the dollars from one pot to the other. But yeah, I haven't looked at those numbers today, but I do have those numbers and can certainly send those to you. But we did have an increase in charters. There was no doubt. That's what's caused this, in addition to their late billing cycles.
And you'll get us those?
Yeah, I can send those to you. I'll send them in just a sec.
Thank you very much. I'd appreciate that.
Is everyone okay for the consent agenda for this item?
And the reason I'm asking, because it looked like our enrollment didn't look like it was down that much, was it? Because he said, what, 333? Anyway,
I'm talking about last year's enrollment. So 2021 is what I'm talking about.
Okay, because what did we do for this? Because this year it looks like we're okay.
We are not as high as we projected, but that's kind of expected in this climate.
Okay.
But we are okay.
Okay.
So we will not do that to our 20th day count,
right?
Correct. So we won't have that number until the 20th day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when I looked at that, I thought, so if you would send me what we had projected for now, because that looked pretty good. Okay. If you would, I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, board members. Anything else? Okay, consent agenda for this item, and we will move to 8.02 for the approval of the furniture purchase. We have Mr. Chuck Taylor to the podium. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, board members, Dr. Kopicki, Mr. Furr. Hope you're all doing well this evening. I'm here to ask for your approval for a furniture purchase to move forward. It was actually in a budget that Ms. Klutz just presented to you. It's something we've done annually for the last 8 years, and it has been of great value and great success. It's actually something that Ms. Klutz put into place, and we're all very proud of that.
Thank you. Board members, any comments or questions? I'll start with Ms. Carpenter. Hearing none. Mr. Furr? No. Mr. Walter?
Does every school get something?
Every school that's chosen, sir. This year we had 17 on the list, and we divide the money between them. We have a committee set up of principals, facilities members, administrators of different levels. Each school level is represented, and then they review our recommendations from facilities, and we move forward with that.
So every 3 years or every 2 years, or every school gets something?
Every 3 years, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Blackwell?
No question.
Ms. Sandage? Ms. Adcock?
No questions.
Thank you. Okay, I'm assuming all are good for the consent agenda? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we will have 8.03, the data cabling bids for Roberta Road Middle School project, and we'll have Mr. Dane Hughes to the podium.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having me here tonight. We recently advertised a request for bids to perform the data cabling portion of the Roberta Road Middle School. The bid package was submitted using our standard bid process for construction. We did receive 3 bid responses. The lowest bid was CSI Technology Integrators. Our cabling supervisor reviewed this submission for accuracy and completeness, and based on that, I would request that we award this bid to CSI for $310,321.66. Do you have any questions?
Comments or questions?
Have we used them before?
Yes, ma'am. They did Hickory Ridge Elementary and West Cabarrus.
Okay, thank you.
Very
Mr.
happy
Walter?
with them.
Yeah, any thoughts on why it's so much lower than the other 2?
No idea. It's just they are able to do it low bid on both of those schools they did previously. They beat each of the next lowest bidder by a significant margin then as well.
So that's consistent with what we've experienced in the past?
Say that again?
Consistent with what we've experienced in the past with that?
Very,
they've
very,
done the
very
work.
much so.
You're satisfied with them, obviously.
And Shelco, our general construction manager at Risk, is very familiar with them and enjoys working with them.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you.
Mr. Furr?
I'm good.
Ms. Carpenter?
I'm good.
Ms. Adcock?
No questions.
Thank you. And I'm assuming all are well for consent agenda. Great. Thank you, Mr. Hughes. We keep you, don't we? 8.04, security camera purchase for Roberta Road Middle. Thank you.
Thank you. We worked with our security camera vendor to provide a quote for installing the cameras, the servers, and configuring everything to work as one complete system. Their quote was $165,867.75, and I request we award this sole source purchase to Security 101.
That was a tongue twister, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and I practiced that.
I thought you did. Okay, I will begin with Ms. Carpenter.
Is that with the cameras too?
That is with the cameras, installation, and everything.
That sounds, it sounds good. But that sounds really low.
They're about $10,000 less than what we had kind of budgeted for it, so we're pretty good on that.
Okay. But I was surprised. That sounds good. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Furr?
I'm good. Good job.
Mr.
Is there an annual cost to that? To these?
The license is included in that, and the Orchid software is something we already pay and renew as part of our technology budget.
So we're not going to have to worry about an annual cost.
Yes, sir.
And then the other question was, is it cloud-based or is it server-based, or how does it work?
It's kind of a hybrid. Each school has its own servers, and then we have a cloud base that aggregates everything.
So you can go monitor any school in the district, is that?
Say that again?
You can monitor any school in the district from central office or wherever?
Very, very much so. And it's also tied to their Active Directory. That's new when we went to the new system 2 years ago. Yes.
So you don't lose the data. You don't lose the data if a server fails or something.
There is potential for that, and we have had a server failure and lost data, but that's pretty rare. The servers are very robust.
Thank you.
Ms. Blackwell?
No questions.
Ms. Sandage?
I just had one question. Have we had any issues or heard of any issues through this company about like hacking or people being able to get into this system?
No, not really, because our system, our local camera servers are behind our firewall, and so they're very well protected. They monitor our cloud-based portion of it, so we have not noticed or seen anything to that effect.
Thank you. That was my question. Thanks for the presentation.
Ms. Adcock?
No question.
Okay, and all are good for the consent agenda. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will have 8.05, policies for approval on first reading. We'll have Mr. John Bestlees back to the podium, and I'm just going to run these through like we normally do. So we have policy 3620, extracurricular activities and student organizations, 5,000, schools and the community. Policy number 6140, student wellness. Policy number 8310, annual independent audit. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Bestlees?
Yeah, please explain. It says district request on student wellness. What was that clause added? What's the purpose of that?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Walter. So again, and also thank you and Ms. Blackwell for your service to the School Health Advisory Council for the district. This is one where we just wanted to make sure that students had access to water throughout the school day. This is particularly important post-pandemic, I believe, or during the pandemic. But certainly we want to make sure students have access to water. Now, sometimes it bumps into the question, why are you saying this? Were we not giving kids access to water? But no, we just want to make sure that it's ingrained in our policy so everybody can see that kids have access to water throughout the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else, comments or questions? Ms. Adcock?
No comments or questions.
Okay, and all are good for the consent agenda? Okay, we will move to 8.06, policies for approval on second reading, beginning with policy number 1742/5060, responding to complaints. Policy 2310, public participation at board meetings. Policy 4135, tuition for discretionary admission. Policy number 4400, attendance. Policy number 6125, administering medicines to students. And policy number 7205, standards of professional conduct. And I will begin with Ms. Carpenter. Comments or questions? Mr. Furr? No. Mr. Walter?
So these have been out there for a month. Have we got any feedback from, don't we have an opportunity for staff to comment on these? Do we get anything back?
I don't believe so, not since the last policy committee. I know that there was some discussion of some of these during the policy committee, but I don't think there's been any additional comment that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Blackwell?
No questions.
Ms. Sandage? Ms. Adcock?
No questions.
Okay, and I'm assuming all are good for the consent agenda. Thank you, Mr. Bestlees.
Thank you.
Now we will move to 8.07, our 2021-2022 academic calendar for revision, and I will turn that over to Dr. Kopicki.
So we were asking the board to approve the revisions made to the calendar for the 2021-22 academic school year. When the calendar was first approved, the 2022 primary election date was unclear, and that conflicted with the date of March 8th. We originally had school scheduled for March 8th. We are simply asking the board to remove that as a school day. It's going to be an optional work day, and there will be no students in attendance for that particular day due to the primary election. So we want to just make that the board to make a motion and approve that. If you look down at the next two slides, you can see that for your own reference, for the community's reference, that we meet the days of instruction, we exceed the hours of instruction that are required across the board, both in our traditional schools and I believe it's Wolf Elementary, the year-round, Wolf Meadow Elementary School, that we meet the hour requirements there. So we're simply asking that the March 8th day is going to be adjusted as a non-student day and a teacher optional work day.
Board members, comments or questions? Ms. Sandage, I'll start with you.
I don't have any questions.
Ms. Blackwell?
I'm good, thanks.
Mr. Walter?
Yeah, so we use our schools as polling places, so that's a good reason why not to have students in the building, not to support that.
That is my understanding. As I came into the district, I was informed that our districts are polling places, and for student safety, we want to make sure that our schools are closed on that date so that kids are not in any kind of an issue for safety.
Mr. Furr? No questions. Ms. Carpenter?
No, I'm on the calendar committee, and all the principals and everyone on there agreed with this option. This was my first meeting, so, you know, I didn't have any problem with it. But every staff and everybody didn't seem to have any problem with that.
Thank you for that. Ms. Adcock?
No comment.
Thank you. Okay, and I assume all are good for the consent agenda. Okay, thank you. We will move to our added item of 8.08, which is the approval of the board interns as presented. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding that? Hearing none. Ms. Adcock, do you have anything else to add?
No, I do not.
Okay, and I'm assuming all are good for the consent agenda.
So just for clarification, that's 4 students that are approved for that?
Correct, the numbers she read in the very beginning. Okay, thank you. That will be added to the consent agenda. Now we will move to our action under 9.01 is our board resolution for legal services for August of 2021. Are there any comments or questions? Hearing none, may I have a motion that the resolution to pay the legal fees for August 2021 be approved as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Blackwell, a second by Mr. Furr. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. And that actually concludes our work session for tonight. And I would ask that we have a motion that the board convene in closed session to consult with an attorney and preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to General Statute 143-31811A3 and to consider confidential personnel matters pursuant to General Statute 143-31811A6.
I'll make the motion as you stated it.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Walter. And I have a second by Ms. Blackwell. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And with that, we will say goodnight to our viewing audience and ask that you come back on Monday for our business meeting on September the 13th. Thank you and good night.